What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Watching Sundays. I know I said I was going to do this whole casual quiz last week, but
more important things.
more important things have surfaced since then. So Marvel writers were weighing in on the whole discussion about how to fix the DCEU, and so we have an opinion of our own on how to fix it, and it's quite simple. It's nothing controversial. It's nothing very, out there.
Although I do feel like it needs a lot of fixing.
Yeah, there's a lot of fixing that needs to take place, but it's not very extravagant, right? It's a very simple procedure.
Well, can I first point out why it should be fixed, or do you think everybody knows why it should be fixed? I think all of you guys are smart enough to know why the Marvel Cinematic Universe works so well and why the DCEU does not. It feels like they're going backwards. Instead of building up superhero characters for you to, love and gravitate towards, they're not. They're just rushing themselves into creating what happened to be the Justice League movie. On the other hand, MCU just like building things from like Iron Man and all these individual characters.
Yeah, it felt like they were trying to really just rush into this whole ensemble film thing that was going on. We had a lot of ensemble films coming out that were kind of making big bucks, like Jumanji. Even though that's not like a comic book property, just in general, ensemble films were doing really well. Like X-Men, even though everybody didn't like that movie,
still enjoyable.
Yeah, it's a lot of people's guilty pleasure, and it makes a lot of money. And so when you have a studio with a property as big as DC, you gotta do something, right? And
they've just been fumbling around for like the past decade,
Yeah, and Green Lantern is a good example of that. But so they revitalized it, right, with the new Ben Affleck Batman, and he's going up against Superman and BVS, and it's the dawn of justice. And then we had Justice League. So
I'm Batman.
So here's how we fix DC.
I'm Batman. I'm Superman.
Martha. Even though I enjoyed that and that movie, Wonder Woman was the most enjoyable part of that movie.
Yes.
Here's how to fix DCEU, right? You go off of Wonder Woman's success because people really cared about where she came from. They cared about her story going forward, why she abandoned humanity 100 years ago. Where does she come from? How does she get her powers? And so that's how you create the foundation for people to come together. And with our Batman seemingly becoming like just out of nowhere, Ben Affleck, even though he was also probably the best Batman so far. I'm sorry, Christian Bale, but where is she?
I'm Batman.
We essentially just got a new Batman, right?
And I actually like Ben Affleck.
I do.
He's older. He's sophisticated. He's got
the gruff.
He's got a little bit of gruff. He's big too. He gets thick. So that's the kind of Batman I like.
What's interesting about how big he is, he kind of almost towers over Henry Cavill. So it's like this disconnect really, because Superman is always towering over everybody.
Yeah, but Batman has always been kind of like this big, kind of like thick presence. And I love the Christian Bale ones, but he was always kind of just like a longer, lankier kind of Batman.
Definitely.
But I love Ben Affleck as Batman. He's got that big, thick jawline that just stands out.
And he had that naturally deep voice, but which was also further enhanced.
Yeah.
So it didn't have to be like, oh, I'm Batman.
But he also has like a fallible characteristics when he is Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Where it felt like the Bale version was like you couldn't like joke around with him.
So we basically got our Batman origin story, right? With Batman v Superman, and then we got Wonder Woman, right? And then Justice League came out, and we suddenly were tasked with caring about a new Flash, a new Aquaman, and a Cyborg that we know nothing about. And they each got like 2 minutes of backstory, and some and Aquaman I think was kind of brushed over.
Yeah.
Like completely. He deserved more time, and so the problem here is that we don't care about anybody. Now, to fix the DCEU is quite simple. Follow what you're doing with CW. Okay, you came out with Arrow, and that was it. Very intimate story about Green Arrow, where he came from, who his villains are, who his friends are, who his allies are, and then you came out with the Flash, and everybody loves Grant Gustin, and you show his villains, you show his allies, and then they had the Legends of Tomorrow. They didn't just slap that team together. Those were all people that were introduced already in Arrow and Flash, and we all in some way grew to care about those characters, and we were and we were engaged and invested in their story as a team, right? And so then they introduced Supergirl in her own show, and that was on CBS, but they CW bought it, and then they continued, and then they slowly crossed her over into the Arrowverse.
Okay, let me say something real quick here then. I think they should have planned it out a little bit better. You know, figure out which character is going to show up in this big Justice League movie with all like the main superheroes, and figure out which characters stay in the periphery, like in the CW spectrum, this TV show like Arrow. You put Flash in there, but all of a sudden you cast another person to play Flash in Justice League, which makes it even worse.
Yeah, I'm saying you just got to follow the formula that they set forth in the Arrowverse, right? Because all I'm essentially saying is that you should, just like what Marvel did, just like what you did with your CW shows, you got to introduce people first. You got to let us come to care about Aquaman. You got to let us come to care about Cyborg, who was a star athlete and got into an accident and had to deal with all this shit. But we didn't go through a journey with those people. And so, Justice League,
like us, give us your money.
And so Wonder Woman was a success, and so you gotta build off of that. You gotta have, you gotta do really well with the upcoming solo films. That's for sure. Because then we also got Steppenwolf, right? This Justice League villain.
You didn't know anything about him either. Like, for a casual fan like me, I appreciate the MCU like coming out with their own like string of movies, from Iron Man, Doctor Strange. You get to build up Thor and like all these other characters, right? But for Justice League, like I've read the comic books, but casually. Like I love Batman, I love Superman. I read a little bit about the Flash and Aquaman, but like just coming out with the Justice League movie was just like probably the worst thing they could have done.
Yeah, I mean, if we consider the Marvel movies, they all had their self-contained villains for those solo films, but they were always building for Thanos. And when Thanos came out, he was multi-layered,
and he was like the architect of this whole build-up, right?
Yeah,
like, he was behind pulling the strings in all these invasions, all these conflicts. And so it all makes sense.
And even before Infinity War, the first Avengers was built up from the solo films, building up to Loki, and the Tesseract, which was used as the main villain to bring the Chitauri army. So everything is always building up, always building up. And then with the Justice League, we were served with a villain strong. Yes, he's a match for Wonder Woman and Superman and the whole entire team. But again,
you have no idea who he was.
You don't know who he is, and they had to deliver it through exposition. Steppenwolf, he just wants to conquer the world. It's like, we don't want another villain that just wants to conquer the world, right?
He's the bad guy.
And we appreciated how Thanos didn't just want to conquer the world. His altruistic side was like, we're running out of resources, we gotta cull half of the universe.
Right.
And then, obviously, like a really great villain, part of a great villain is you relate to them, you see where they're coming from, you just don't agree with their methods, right? And so Justice League came out with...
So what do you think, what do you think they should do now? Like, obviously, they've already done Justice League, can't do anything about it, just like you can't do anything about Last Jedi, it's already happened. But, like, you've got Wonder Woman 2 coming out, you've got Aquaman coming out. Like, how do you go from there? Because it seems like it's more, you have to have a Cyborg solo as well.
Yes. I'm hoping that before they even come close to a Justice League 2, is that they start building or unraveling a larger web, right? They've already teased that Darkseid with his Omega symbol. So we already know he's the big bad. So now they gotta do something about it with these solo films where all of the directors and writers get into one room. They need to start building one vision around how they're gonna build Darkseid in these solo films. He's got to have...
Darkseid is essentially Thanos.
Yes, he's got to have his overarching
right.
architecture. As
he's got to be behind some
He's got to be behind all of these people that are coming after Aquaman, coming after Cyborg, coming after Wonder Woman. And so when we watch all of these solo films coming in and we start to gain some rapport with these characters, we're starting to see the Easter eggs that Darkseid is coming.
God, I hope that happens because, like, I really appreciated the Wonder Woman movie, and that's it.
Wonder
Woman 2 is coming out.
Batman, Wonder Woman in Batman vs Superman, and then Wonder Woman.
But I think the one thing that I personally feel like is really, really hard for DCEU to be fixed is because they've rebooted Batman so many times, and there's been so many different versions of Superman. Like it's almost hard to like start off with a fresh canvas and like bring your narrative through the theatrical universe, because it's already it's not too far apart. Like Christian Bale's Batman was like what 3 or 4 years ago, and now we have a Ben Affleck Batman.
You know what? It has to be done.
Oh man, that is so simple.
It's got to be done. Leave it in the comment section below how you would fix the DCEU. Is it going to be simple? Do you have reboot plans? Or do you have recasts? Or are you starting from scratch? Let us know in the comment section below. Or if you agreed with our fix for the DCEU. And we'll see you guys next week.